What the hell are you? We are Venom.
With Venom coming out in cinemas this week, many loyal comic book fans are anxious whether the film will be any good. It doesn't help that it's getting very poor reviews right now. But why is the bar for Venom so high? Well, it's not just because Venom is one of Marvel's most popular characters. Many also believe that Spider-Man 3 did a disservice to the supervillain. Howdy folks, Jamboree here, and I would like to propose the question, was Venom in Spider-Man 3 really that bad? Now, I'll be honest and admit that I'm not an avid reader of the Spider-Man comics, so I can't provide a point of view of a comic book fan. But I am a film fan, so I'm going to be analysing Venom as a character in Spider-Man 3 in the context of the movie only. In Spider-Man 3, a strange alien symbiote attaches itself to Peter Parker's Spider-Man suit, enhancing his powers greatly, but it also begins warping him into a more aggressive person. Peter indulges in the effects of the dark Spidey suit, but when it pushes him too far, he finds the courage to remove it from his body, only for it to land on photographer Eddie Brock, who happens to be Peter's former colleague at the Daily Bugle. Eddie embraces the symbiote, becoming the supervillain Venom. Many have complained about the symbiote effects on Peter, stating that his turn to the dark side is handled too cheesily, portraying evil Peter as a rather dorky villain. From giving him a silly emo haircut, to having him strut down the street with a goofy dance and self-confidence. Here's the thing though, that's clearly the point. Peter is a nerd. The films never shy away from this.
The applause wasn't very loud.
Yes, it was. It's the acoustics. It's all about diffusion. It keeps the sound waves from grouping. You see, when the sound waves, they propagate, then it's like an...
You are such a nerd.
He may be quite the badass in his Spidey suit, but when he's Peter Parker, he's your typical geeky guy. The symbiote hasn't taken over Peter entirely, it's only influencing his emotions, and Peter's idea of cool confidence is bound to be far from actually hip. This is Peter Parker, not Tony Stark or Bruce Wayne. If he wants to try to seem cool, of course he's going to act like a 1950s delinquent who dances like Donny Osmond. He doesn't know the meaning of suave, but in his mind he thinks he's coming across as super slick and charming. He's that pumped up with vanity. Yes, it's embarrassing to watch, but it fits his character and it makes sense. Also, it's not like the film never gets intensely dark with emo Peter. He has his more serious moments, including blowing up Harry with a pumpkin bomb and physically assaulting Mary Jane. His darkness isn't all about cheesy dancing and being rude on the phone. There's more to it than that. Now, I mainly have to praise the symbiote in a metaphorical sense, as that's where its depth and complexity lies the most. For example, the symbiote can be seen as an allegory for the darkness that may consume us. The symbiote enters Peter's life when he's heavily committing the sin of pride, with Spider-Man being the hottest thing around and everyone celebrating how amazing he is. Peter's arrogance is making him alienate Mary Jane, as he doesn't try to sympathize with the problems she's facing right now. But Peter is also burning with the desire for revenge after he learns that escaped convict Flint Marko, aka the Sandman, was the real killer of his Uncle Ben. Vengeance is highly condemned by Peter's loved ones, and it's also framed as a negative trait in the movie's villains. So the film wants to show that vengeance is not the answer, and even an act of evil, because it makes us lower ourselves down to those we are angry at.
I don't think it's for us to say whether a person deserves to live or die.
But Aunt May, he killed Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben meant the world to us. But he wouldn't want us living 1 second with revenge in our hearts.
The symbiote uses Peter's pride and hostility to bring out his worst nature, motivating him to be spiteful, vengeful, violent, apathetic and destructive. This is also the worst time for Peter to go rogue, as the villains he's facing are actually broken people that he could save. Two of Spidey's most honourable qualities are his mercy and sympathy, so it's disturbing to see him abandon that aspect of himself. We are all vulnerable to the temptations of darkness, as it's a great power that'll take away our sensitive emotions and obligations to morality. But we have to fight these feelings, stay strong, and remain in the light. Spider-Man 3 is actually very consistent to the theme of fighting the evil within us, and the symbiote is cleverly used as a way to explore the subject, leaving audiences with the lesson that even they can become seduced into the darkness. If a superhero is susceptible to villainy, then anyone can fall into the same black pit, a bitter hatred that convinces us that our cruelty is justified. And it's vital that we question ourselves in certain social scenarios. Are we really the good person in this situation right now, or have we let our pride make us lose who we are? In another sense, the symbiote is like a dangerous drug, an addictive substance that gives us the high of self-confidence, but also has the catch of bringing out the worst in us, to the point where we end up pushing away loved ones. This makes audiences with real addictions relate to the symbiote's effects. They can see themselves in Peter, and maybe this will encourage them to fight their habit. Who better to inspire them than Spider-Man? If he can overcome addiction, then so can they. One other aspect of the symbiote that intrigues me is how mysterious it is. The film is very vague about where it came from and what its motives are. There's something greatly disturbing about this lack of information. The audience have to fill in the blanks themselves, and what we are guessing could be even more frightening than the truth. This is what makes the symbiote so creepy, its lack of identity. Our imaginations are creating the horror for us. I think this is why I don't mind how little we see of Venom's face. It adds to the creepy mystery. Now, another issue people have with this film's take on Venom is its portrayal of Eddie Brock, the man who ends up donning the symbiote for supervillainy. Most of the villains in Spider-Man 3 are very complex and facing personal demons. Flint Marko is haunted by the guilt of killing Uncle Ben, and he's worried about the life of his daughter. Harry Osborn is a lonely man who will do anything to avenge his father's death, even listening to the delusion of his dad as a guiding force in his actions. This is why folks consider Eddie Brock to be the weak link in the film's gallery of rogues. He's just some jerk who is throwing a tantrum at Peter for exposing his photoshopped newspaper submissions and taking his crush out on a date. Compared to the other villains, Eddie comes off as a petulant brat. It doesn't help that the film cast pretty boy babyface Topher Grace in the role. No offense to him, but whenever Venom removes his mask, revealing a whiny young man who looks more like he belongs in NSYNC than the League of Supervillains, it's hard to get intimidated. Even Topher himself was baffled why he was given the role. I was a huge fan of the character Venom when I was a kid. I was surprised and a little bit like, huh? When they wanted me to play it. And Sandman actor Thomas Hayden Church has stated that studio meddling led to his casting, as Sony wanted a millennial villain in the film to reach a wider demographic. The studio felt like they had me, they had Franco's story continuing, and they were like, we need one more that's more of a millennial. But let's be objective here. What good could be said about Eddie Brock? What does work about him? Well, unlike other characters in the film, even the villains, Eddie has always lacked a moral compass. He convinces the Daily Bugle and the public that his photos of Spider-Man are genuine, and when criticised for his fraudulence, he has no guilt at all. He even lies that he's dating his crush Gwen Stacy. He's that possessive of her, which is quite creepy and stalkerish. Heck, the man is so corrupt that he prays to Jesus, a messiah symbol of love and kindness, to murder Peter Parker. He's full of so much pride that he even believes that Jesus himself would agree that he's been wronged and Peter rightfully must die. How screwed up is that? In a bold move, the film is saying that some people are inherently bad and don't need to be swayed into the darkness. They're already there, believing that their behavior is normal and justified. So giving Eddie the symbiote is sort of unsettling. The man has no conscience. He was a baby step away from villainy. He just needed the physical strength to back him up. Eddie's motives for killing Peter may stem from petty office politics, but keep in mind that some of the worst criminals ever started off very small. It just takes a prod or a nudge to inspire them to commit bigger crimes. The fact that Eddie is just Peter's colleague at the Daily Bugle can actually make him very relatable. We all know one person at work who bored us on becoming a villain. Whether it's the cocky asshole who manipulates his way up the promotional ladder, the creepy weirdo who stalks people outside work, or that annoying jerk who just makes your job even harder. Many audiences can identify Eddie Brock as someone familiar. He resembles a character from most people's lives. I'm sure people will find it cathartic to watch Spider-Man try to take him down, cheering on Spidey louder than usual. While Topher Grace may not seem menacing as Venom, he does do a great job playing an annoying work colleague. He excels at portraying a self-entitled creepy jerk, so I'll give him that.
I want a staff job, sir. I have a girl that I intend to marry, and I guess, I don't know, I have this stupid little dream of working with one of the greatest newspaper editors of our time.
Plus, when he puts on the extraterrestrial suit, he's clearly having fun hamming it up as a supervillain, so I can't say that he's not trying.
Never wound what you can't kill.
Eddie, the suit. You gotta take it off.
Oh, you'd like that, wouldn't you?
To conclude, while Spider-Man 3's Venom does have its problems, I've managed to find some qualities in him too. But what do you think? What are your thoughts on Venom in Spider-Man 3? Let me know in the comment section below. My friend Nero, who is a big comic book fan and is very knowledgeable on the character of Venom, has made a video on this subject too. I've linked his video in the description box below. I've been Jamboree. Cheerio, folks.